just fail forward. Be comfortable with failure. Be comfortable putting one foot in front of the other. If something doesn't work, figure out why, do it again, and figure out why it didn't work again, then do it again until you're successful. One of the most important things that made me successful in this game was understanding that failure is an opportunity for growth, and that opportunity for growth, if you grab it and take it by the horns, is the opportunity to build success long term.
The Tom Screen podcast is owned and made possible by Ethical Marketing Service. If your business is struggling with Google or Facebook ads, maybe you're frustrated figuring it out, or there's a performance issue, Ethical Marketing Service has worked on hundreds of accounts and we can help in this area. We offer a 30-day money-back guarantee, and for every direct account we look after, we sponsor a child in a developing nation with food, water and education. If you would like to find out if we can help, it's a free, no salesy consultation call, and the link is in the description. Enjoy the episode. Thomas Green here with Ethical Marketing Service. On the episode today, we have Chandler Walker. Chandler, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm super excited to jump on and talk about my simple 3-step strategies that we use to sell without manipulation, aggressive tactics, or feeling salesy.
Well, thank you for that. Would you like to take a moment and tell the audience a bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, my name's Chandler, and I have opened and run several different businesses. It all started from when I was a kid, and right now at the moment we help people in a wellness program, and right now my biggest focus is helping people remove the need to sell with aggression and manipulative tactics and install a service model and a compassion-focused sales system.
I did want to ask you about your 3 pillars, but you said you've been in, should we say, multiple businesses. Have you found, which businesses were you in, and have you found that your sales experience has helped you in those businesses?
Yeah, so I think those businesses actually helped my sales skills and helped me get the confidence enough to say, okay, I have these sales skills and they're different, but it's okay. Because my first business was a brick-and-mortar wellness facility. So I was on a med school pathway originally, and I kind of got disenfranchised by the system because I felt like what I was doing was giving pills and medication for a living. And I really got into the whole game to provide wellness. And so at that point, I broke off and I opened up this physical wellness facility where we had 6 pillars of wellness, and it was mental health, social health, sleep, nutrition, fitness, and ultimately habits. And once that business really took off, I started moving it online because I felt like we could have a global footprint, which was a good idea because when COVID hit, we were already online and motoring and running through. And so then after that business, I was able to sell the brick and mortar and move into the online exclusively. And then we moved into managing a consulting organization to help GM owners and business owners do the same thing. I've had a media company, and now ultimately we're in a position to where we have the wellness business and the sales consultancy.
So why do you do it?
Yeah, for me, the biggest thing was when I was building up my brick and mortar, when I was building up my first business, I felt really disenfranchised by sales because I was pretty good at sales itself. I was able to enroll people in my product and in our service, and it was a high-end service. So it was $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 to get into it. But eventually what I did was I wanted to get better. So I did what we always do when we want to get better and hired coaches. But the problem was the coaches I hired were telling me to be aggressive, that you have to go for the close, that you have to, if they cry, they buy, if you have to stab them with the knife and twist it a little. And I never felt comfortable with that because I felt like I had a wellness business and my goal was to get people better. But now I was sitting here manipulating people and kind of forcing them to make a decision. So I just ditched that whole model of sales. And after it was 3,000 or 4,000 sales conversations I did by myself, I looked at what we were doing in our mental health side of the curriculum in the wellness business. And so I took the components of cognitive behavior therapy, motivational interviewing, acceptance commitment therapy, and a bunch of different modalities in terms of psychology and installed them into my sales system. And now we've created a psychotherapeutic model for sales to where we can sell with compassion and care, because that's how I want to sell. I never wanted to be the guy who was pushy or manipulative or thought of sales as a bad word. I wanted it to be a product of service.
If they cry, they buy is kind of a dark one. I've not heard that one before.
That one's terrible.
But if you were to, let's say, interact with someone and they were selling in a way that wasn't congruent with their personality, if you like, and they were more interested in your approach, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, I tell them it comes down to three big things if you really want to learn my approach. And the biggest thing, though, is learning how to ask strategic questions. So our goal isn't just to find the pain. Our goal is to ask strategic questions to understand and go from what the external statement somebody gives us is. External statement is, I want leads or I want to lose weight, and move someone into understand what the internal belief is. Internal belief is, I don't feel good on the beach because I think people see me as disgusting, or it's not that I need leads, it's that I don't think I'm going to be able to pay my mortgage and my kids are going to be homeless. So we need to understand what the real internal battle is. And then once we understand that, we want to ask questions to connect the dots to the past, to understand where this started and how the triggers along the way have manifested to make the reality of failure an extreme possibility.
Okay. And what would you say are the main... I was going to say what are the main objections, but as I saw in prep for the episode, you actually have a take on objections as well. So would you like to, I'll rephrase the question. What do people say where they don't agree with that approach, and how do you overcome it? And then your take on objections, obviously.
Yeah, when they don't agree on selling from compassion and care.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if they want to sell in an aggressive way and they want to be salesy and they really want to hit people hard, then for me, it's not my place to convince somebody to do it. So they can sell that way and that's okay. And I'm not going to judge someone for their choice and what they want to do. It just wouldn't make sense for our system to be installed because it would be a fight. If you don't want to change, if you want to shift, the decision has to come from the person. The decision can't come from me. If I tell you to do something, you can doubt it. But if you tell yourself you need to do it, that's when it's real.
And your take on objections?
Yeah, so in terms of objections, what we do is, and one of the biggest problems I see with people in sales is they wait till the end to handle objections and they get crushed, or it ends up being this fight back and forth to get through objections. So what we do is we install what I call the model of the challenging leader. And inside the model of the challenging leader, what we do is we work through all objections in discovery. So we get rid of I want to think about it, the money objection, we get rid of the spouse objection, all the objections we handle right in discovery. And discovery, if you're wondering, is the first phase of the call. So we go through spouse, and it's not the idea of you need your spouse here to make a call. We make sure there's alignment. We make sure that everybody on the call is in alignment together and that this spouse or business partner knows what's going on. Because often in business, if the business partner isn't aware and the business partner doesn't know what's happening, there's probably going to be a high level of failure because they're oblivious to what's going on. And as a fact, they're not going to be able to support it because they don't understand it. Finances, we simply teach a method to directly talk about finances. We understand what they make. We understand what they take home after bills. We understand what the credit situation looks like. And we move ourselves into a place where we can have hard conversations, but we can do it with compassion and care. And we can get through these objections early and challenge people on whether or not it makes sense. So the decision to actually enroll and make this happen comes from them specifically. And if they don't want to, it comes up way earlier. So that way we don't get to the end and end up battling somebody.
Do you find it's actually a good way of pre-qualifying people as well? So you're not essentially dealing with someone who is going to be a waste of your time.
Yeah, definitely. It's a way to pre-qualify people for your coaching and to see if they're a good fit. And that's why we challenge people, because we want to make sure that we're enrolling the right clients into our products and services. So that way we get a high success rate. If I wait till the end and I just try to get everybody in, my success rate's going to be low and refund rates are going to be high. So I want to make sure I pre-qualify people and I put people in a place to where they make a good decision for themselves and I make a good decision for my business as to whether or not they should even be in the program.
What's a cognitive listener?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the cognitive listener philosophy, or what we call as well the level 5 listening, is being able to step outside of your own ego. It's being able to step outside of your own head and step into the mind, the body, the soul of the other person you're speaking to. A lot of the time people listen and they listen to only respond. They're not really actually listening to pay attention to the person. Where most people on the other side of things just listen to kind of ignore, and they only kind of half pay attention. Those are the people who are sitting like on their phone and just saying, while you talk. To be a level 5 listener, what you have to do is you have to ask questions so you can be influenced by the person, so that way you can create influence. And the reason we want to do that is because we want to be able to go from that external statement, like I said previously, into the internal belief and desire. And the only way to do that is ask strategic questions based off of the responses of the person and move yourself to a place to where you understand from a deep level what they're really struggling with, why, how to connect the dots, and understand the triggers along the way, so you reframe what the problem they think is to the real major problem at hand.
Well, I do feel like, based on your answer, I have to reference something you say so that I can prove that I'm a good listener. But you did say about influence, and a lot of these conversations, at least sales conversations I have, is the interesting, should we say, difference between influence and manipulation. So have you given that topic any thought?
Yeah, so when you think about influence is the ability to, in my opinion, and how I describe it, is the ability to open up your mind to other ideas. To be influenced is to allow other ideas and thoughts to enter your domain. And when you influence someone else, they're dropping in sales, they're dropping their sales resistance and allowing themselves to be influenced by you because you've built trust. And now when it becomes manipulation is when you take advantage of that and you start helping them and trying to make them believe something that isn't real, something that doesn't exist. You're manipulating them to make a decision that's in your best interest, but might not be in their best interest.
So the main difference, you'd say, is in the fact that it's not in their interest to do what the outcome is.
Yeah, the main interest is intent. If your intent is to influence someone without necessarily an outcome, then you can influence. But if your intent is to influence someone to change their mind, to force a decision, that's when we enter manipulation.
So what does a typical inquiry look like for you on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, so what does it look like when someone comes into our sales system?
What's your day look like, generally speaking?
Yeah, my day looks like, so I wake up around 8 o'clock in the morning, our time over here, and I'll usually grab some coffee and just hang out for a little bit before I start my day. My day usually starts off with meetings, and then it goes into a couple podcasts usually, and then it goes into managing our processes and really making sure everything's okay from the highest level, talking to our higher level managers, making sure they're managing processes in the business across the board. And then at the end of the day, I just kind of wrap up and I go do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and enjoy myself. For me right now, it's less about working 24/7 and more about making sure I manage and maintain our team, because our team kind of runs the business, and then making sure I take care of myself and spend time with my 3-year-old daughter. That's probably the most important thing for me right now, is to be there for her, so I can be a dad who's actually present and a dad who gets to spend radical amounts of time with her and look back and realize how lucky I was to be able to be in this position.
Well, you referenced previously your 4,000 sales conversations, and then based on what you said about what your typical day looks like, there's quite a contrast there. What's the reason for that contrast, would you say?
Yeah, so that was the beginning, and we've scaled up, and that's not the position I'm in anymore. So in the beginning, it was me doing everything basically, because I started the business, I was the founder, I had to make everything work. And then as we scaled up, I was able to scale myself back. I was able to remove myself off calls, remove myself off the inner workings of the business, and move myself into a place to where I can actually be the high-level CEO, the founder, the person responsible for the vision and growth. And so remove that contrast is the idea of going from a solopreneur to someone with an actual functioning structured business.
And you feel good about that?
Yeah, I feel great about that. I think the idea in entrepreneurship is you want freedom. But in order to build freedom, you have to have structure. And in order to have that structure, you have to remove yourself from the process. And I think one of the biggest struggles entrepreneurs themselves have is removing the ego to remove themselves from the process. Because a lot of people I talk to say that nobody can do it like them. Nobody's going to be able to do it as good as them. And in reality, that's true. But also in reality, if you want to achieve the freedom that most of us want, you have to accept the fact that nobody's going to be able to do it as well as you.
Yeah, great point. Well done for being able to remove yourself from your business anyway. I'd say that's always an accomplishment. You feel proud?
Yeah, I feel like it one foot in front of the other. So I feel proud, I feel good about it, but also I don't feel like I need to get lazy. And so for me, I still need to push the mid-level of our team to be able to push the bottom level and push the vision of the business and continuously reinvent it so we stay abreast of changing times. Because I think when you get lazy and lackadaisical is when your business starts to decline.
Well, I like this one. It's one of your questions from the profile, and it's the ability to detach from the need to sell. And I think ties into something else, which is, let's say you need the money, right? And you kind of have to, I don't know, sell without the outcome in mind. What's your thoughts or approach there?
Yeah, so the detaching from the need to sell moves into detaching from just need in general. And the idea behind it is if you need something really bad, if you want something really bad, the other person can almost smell it on you. And that's when the idea of commission breath comes into play. And so if you can detach from the need to sell and install the need to serve in that environment and help the individual you're with, what'll happen is you won't come off as needy and you won't come off as wanting it. And as a result, and because of the human condition, other people tend to lean in when they feel like you don't want it as much. And so one thing we do before the call is we have a little exercise where we kind of just shut our eyes and we start thinking about leaves on a stream. And we put our emotions on the leaves. We allow them to pass by. We don't fight them. We don't try to push them away. We just let them flow. And it puts us in a good state to be able to move on to the phone call without this attachment, without this stress, without this need. Because yes, we do need money, but the more we want it, the less it's likely we're going to get it. So we have to train ourselves to be in a mindset, in a position to where it's less, I want it, and more, hey, this is your decision. Do you really want this thing? Are you sure you want to buy this thing? Because when I have that mentality and I push people away, they're going to move deeper. They're going to lean in because now they want it more because they don't feel like I'm pushing and telling them to come in. And it changed the dynamic in the game of sales from a dynamic of this guy just wants to sell me to a dynamic of why doesn't this guy just want to sell me? Because people, they love to buy, but they don't want to be sold.
It's interesting, isn't it? Based on how we spoke before about the pushiness in sales versus your approach now and what your answer was, because I don't know, it almost seems like people copied each other for a long time about how sales was supposed to look and how the salesperson was supposed to be. But in reality, I mean, you can do it your own way, or you could do it in a relaxed way, and the outcome, would you say the outcome is similar or even the same, or the results are better? What's your take on that?
Yeah, typically when we install this system, it helps people do this more naturally. And like you're saying, they feel like they can be themselves and they're not chasing this lie that they have to be aggressive and follow the system and follow these scripts. So what typically happens when we work with people is they either double or triple their enrollment rates. And an even more interesting thing that happens is clients start coming back, or prospects start coming back. And so we get out of this mentality that we have to close people in one call and into this mentality of building a relationship. And then what happens as a result is the people that you don't enroll typically come back. They might come back a week later, 6 weeks later, 6 months later, but you build this pipeline that has a snowball impact. All of a sudden you have all these people coming back, and now you can depend less on front-end revenue and front-end marketing, and you can have this actual system of achieving prospects coming back into your sales system.
So you can actually get better results from being, I mean, I would say more ethical. And it ties into one of the things, I suppose, one of the questions I asked earlier, which was if you have someone who is, should we say, skeptical about the concept of, I don't know, I'm not sure you've referred to it as a soft sell, but not using the hard sell. But the answer from what you've said anyway is, you can actually get better results doing it in a more ethical way.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of what I base it off of. It's not about feelings and emotions. It's about numbers at the end of the day. And we typically get better close rates. We get better show rates. We get people who come back and buy. We build a system to where it's not just a front end sale, but we have relationships with people who want to come back. And so we typically get better results short and long term.
So, of all the things that you talk to people about on podcasts, what's your favorite thing to discuss?
I think right now my favorite thing to discuss and talk about is decentralized finance, Because what I've kind of understood and built and developed is a system to where I can take my business profits and compound those into decentralized finance and then loop those profits back into what I'm compounding to create some ridiculous rate of like 40 to 100% interest on what I'm earning with non-volatile assets. And so what it does is it allows me to compound my profits, create more profits, and then create this sort of what I call a pillow to where profits just keep running and moving into that pillow. And I can pull from that pillow if I need to. So I'm not necessarily spending my own money anymore. I'm spending the house money that I'm earning.
So is that crypto? Is that correct in saying that?
Yeah, DeFi works in crypto, and so it works on the blockchain. It's not necessarily like buying and selling coins, but it's taking the idea of removing the bank from the equation and allowing yourself to be the bank. And so what it really is it's people coming together and putting and pooling their money into what we call like smart contracts based on a secure system. And then other people come in and they want to swap and trade and do all that stuff. And so your coins go into this pool and they swap and trade. You get a portion of the fees that are accrued, and then you get interest as a reward for being in there. And the reason you can get higher levels and rates of interest is because you don't have the bank taking fees on 87 different things. And when you think about it, especially here, what happens is, say you go and you buy a 7-Up from the gas station. In order to buy that 7-Up, they're going to process it. To process it, there's going to be at least 3 different intermediaries who are going to take a cut. If you remove all of that, you remove a massive chunk of fees. And when you think about a savings account, you put your money in a savings account. You can earn what, 0.01% interest if you're lucky. Maybe some of these new ones have 1%, but they're going to take your money that's sitting in your savings account and the bank's going to lend it out and charge someone 20+% for it. So you remove those fees. You remove all these fees that the banks are using to essentially take our money and lend it out and make money for themselves and put that into your own pocket.
So are you becoming a lender at that point then? Or am I misunderstanding?
Yeah, you essentially become the liquidity to make sure the market functions and works. So you put your money in, other people put their money in, it's all in a pool, and it's locked in a smart contract. And the contract is ideally a secure contract, so people can't just like take your money and steal it. But you have to be your own bank and you have to have your own security at the same time. And so what that does is it creates this like peer-to-peer environment where everybody comes together and everybody is their own bank. So you create this decentralized atmosphere.
And you mentioned the blockchain. For those that I would say there's a fair number of that don't understand what that means. How do you define it?
Yeah, so blockchain is basically an open public ledger. So say you're sitting there and you have a friend and you guys want to buy like a soda every week, but you want everybody to be aware that you bought it. So you're going to buy it and then you're going to write it down. And then when you buy it again, you're going to write it down. But every time you write it with permanent marker. That's how the blockchain works. So you make a transaction and your receipt is publicly available on the blockchain. You make another transaction, your receipt is publicly available. Everything everybody does on the blockchain is publicly available for everyone to see. So nothing can be hidden. You can't have any backdoor deals. You can't have things that happen behind the scenes. You can't have under the table deals because the second you initiate that smart contract, it's publicly available on the ledger. It's permissionless, so nobody can get in and access it and adjust it, and it lives there forever.
Well, I think I have an understanding about it, but I'm still a bit of a noob in relation to the cryptocurrency stuff. So for those, should we say, what are the misconceptions that you frequently deal with in relation to this topic?
Yeah, in terms of like the crypto game, I think the biggest misconceptions that I hear about a lot are it's all about like buying and selling coins. It's all about trying to make a quick buck. And in reality, for me, the reason I do participate in DeFi is because I can earn great returns and I can use non-volatile assets. So I can use coins that stay at $1 or what we call like stable coins. So I can use it to build business treasuries. I can use it to build my war chest. I don't have to be in the volatility of the market. And so I think people who are quite risk averse and a little bit afraid to get into the volatility of crypto can probably get into DeFi and not get wrecked and not have to stare at charts all day and not have to worry about scams and stuff like that, because it puts them on just a different level. You're not buying and selling coins, which you can, and you can get wrecked that way, but you also don't have to do that.
So what's DeFi again?
DeFi is decentralized finance. And so centralized finance is where the bank kind of controls everything. Decentralized finance removes the bank from the equation, and you essentially and other people act as the bank.
And would you say that where's the money, if you say that you're sort of making an income from that, where does the money come from in terms of you are lending out your money, is that right?
Yeah, so there's a few different strategies and way DeFi works. What you'll do is you'll put your money into what we call like a liquidity pool. And inside that pool is your money, other people's money, everybody's money is in there, and it's a pool of assets. So I put my assets in there, and then when someone comes into what we call a decentralized exchange, they want to exchange their coins and get other things and swap. And so when they swap, my liquidity gets used to make that swap happen, but then there's also a fee associated with it. So that fee goes into the pool and I get a portion of that fee. The other thing I can do is I can deposit my assets and allow them to be used as collateral. And so when I deposit my assets, they can use it to lend out, and someone can take a loan out against my assets, and then I get paid a portion of the fees to allow that to happen. I can also take a loan out against my own assets. And the cool thing about this is there's no applications, it's permissionless, it's in a smart contract, so your money stays in where it goes, but it's allowed to move around as people lend and as people borrow and as people swap and trade, and you get a portion of the fees associated with all of it. And the reason that you can make a return and earn a high rate of return is because there's no bank charging 17 different fees to make it all happen. If you try to get a loan, there's a lending fee, there's a fee to do the application, there's the percentage rate. If you, like I said earlier, if you go buy a 7-Up, there's at least 3 different people who are taking their cut to process that payment. So none of that exists. There's the simple fee of a swap, and there's sometimes a fee for someone to borrow money, and you get a portion of that rather than the bank taking all of it.
So, I mean, I've seen plenty of, should we say, documentaries about people who, why can't I just lend my money out in the way that a bank does? Is it now possible, doing what you're doing, is actually to become a lender just using the blockchain? Is that correct language?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, it's totally possible. I can go on right now and put my money in my wallet and put that money onto a decentralized exchange or a lending platform, and I can lend my money out right away. It can be lent out. I can put it in the pool to allow it to be lent out within probably 30 seconds.
How did you discover all this?
For me, it was the idea of, I bought the coin Ethereum in 2016 when it was like $15 a coin. I think it's like 3,000 a coin now. And so that was my first introduction to like the crypto environment. And then I kept buying different coins and I kept making really good returns off of them. And that led me to a place where I was like, okay, I need to put this somewhere so I don't like lose all my money in this process. And so that's when I started discovering DeFi, and I started looking at, okay, these are really high rates. Let's see if this is real. Let's see if this is a scam. Let's see if this makes sense. Let's see why this is even possible. And that led me to really diving deep to understand what's going on, what's happening, why. And then once I felt comfortable with it, I kind of went all in, and it's been a really good decision at this point.
And are you still in Ethereum?
I have quite a bit of Ethereum still. I got it so low at 15 a coin. The thing would have to tank to 0 for me to lose all my money. And I don't want to sell it all because then I have a huge hit with capital gains taxes. So I sell it incrementally. When I see Ethereum come up and peak, I'll sell portions of it. When it peaks, I'll sell portions of it. So that way I can get rid of it incrementally. I don't sell it all at once. I don't get this huge hit in capital gains taxes, but I can take advantage of the peaks and offload it 30, 40, 50K at a time when it hits its little peaks.
And you got any thoughts on what the future looks like in relation to crypto?
Yeah, I think what's going to happen with crypto is it's probably going to move into an environment to where it becomes at least semi-regulated. I think right now there's a lot of uncertainty as to what we should do with it. I think in the US especially, they've adopted some strong arm tactics by labeling most coins as securities, and I think it's often regulation will stifle innovation, but at the same time, I think in order for crypto to be taken seriously and used with big industries, it's going to have some sort of regulation to make sure that it operates at least somewhere near the regular financial system. But at the same time, I don't think it can ever be on the same level because the idea behind crypto is decentralization. The idea is not to have the bank, to not have a central authority, to have the people essentially be responsible for managing and moving the money and the idea.
Do you think the government will create its own coin?
I think so. I think almost every government is going to create a central bank currency. I think we'll have the digital dollar, we'll have the digital everything. All of a sudden, they'll all start coming out. You can already see I think China has theirs introduced. The US government is actually looking at and doing studies on whether or not what the efficacy behind the US digital dollar is. So I think it's coming, and it's coming in hot.
Well, thank you for sharing some of your knowledge on it, and also the sales stuff is really, really useful. Have you got any closing thoughts for us today?
Yeah, I think the closing thoughts for people listening to this is, for me, it's just fail forward. Be comfortable with failure. Be comfortable putting one foot in front of the other. If something doesn't work, figure out why, do it again, and figure out why it didn't work again, then do it again until you're successful. One of the most important things that made me successful in this game was understanding that failure is an opportunity for growth, and that opportunity for growth, if you grab it and take it by the horns, is the opportunity to build success long term.
And what are your goals?
Right now, my goal is to spend as much time as possible with my little girl. And at the same time, our goal is to change the landscape of sales. We want to build a culture of care across the industry and install what we're doing across hundreds of thousands of businesses over the next 10 years.
Thank you for that. You mentioned that you were jiu-jitsu. I'm not sure what you would call it. A practitioner? Is that an accurate term?
Yeah, practitioner. Jiu-jitsu guy, the dude who does jits.
Is it something that has influenced your life in a way that lots of people talk about, or is it just a hobby?
It actually has influenced me quite a bit. And the reason behind that is because jiu-jitsu is the ultimate ego check. When you think you're good, you get crushed. When you think you know everything, you realize you don't. When you're on the mats and you're on top of your game, all of a sudden someone beats you. So it teaches you about the roller coaster that is life, the roller coaster that is success and failure. And it teaches you how to check your ego. It teaches you there's always someone better than you. And it teaches you that you have to keep training, you have to keep progressing in order to make progress. And if you stop and quit and get lazy, you lose that progress. And so I think I've learned an incredible amount of lessons from jiu-jitsu. The idea of push-pull, the idea of if I'm aggressive, or if someone comes at me aggressive and I pull away and I'm not as aggressive, I can actually win that battle. And that comes into the idea of sales and business as well. I can move and modify what I do based on what the market's doing, what other people are doing, and I don't have to hit everything head on.
Well, thank you for that. If people want to know more, where do they find you?
Yeah, if you want to learn more about our sales system, I give away a free 9-step process to compassion conversations. It's our entire process mapped out. Just go to 9step.cultureofcare.life. That's the number 9step.cultureofcare.life. If you want to just follow me, you can follow me on Instagram. That's instagram.com/Chandler_SAF. If you're more of a video person, check me out on YouTube. That's youtube.com/Chandler Walker SAF. And since we talked about crypto and blockchain, if you're interested in that, just go to crypto.cultureofcare.life.
Well, thank you for that. It's been an interesting conversation, and thanks for being a great guest today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Hopefully we gave people some value and they're ready to take over the world and build a culture of care in their business.